And we're back with part 2 of chapter 5, Who is the Dark-Haired One? From Lois Lowry's Number the Stars. When we last left off, we heard a pounding on the apartment door. Let's keep reading on and listen to how Lois Lowry uses dialogue to heighten the conflict in the story. Anne-Marie eased the bedroom door open quietly, only a crack, and peeked out. Behind her, Ellen was sitting up, eyes wide. She could see Mama and Papa in their night clothes moving about. Mama held a lighted candle. But as Anne-Marie watched, she went to a lamp and switched it on. It was a long time since they had dared to use the strictly rationed electricity after dark, that the light in the room seemed startling to Anne-Marie. Watching through the slightly opened bedroom door, she saw her mother look automatically to the blackout curtains, making certain that they were tightly drawn. Papa opened the front door to the soldiers.
"This is the Johansson apartment?"
A deep voice asked the question loudly, in terribly accented Danish.
"Our name is on the door, and I see you have a flashlight," Papa answered. "What do you want? Is something wrong?" "I understand a friend of your neighbor's, the Rosens, Miss Johansson," the soldier said angrily.
"Sophie Rosen is my friend, that's true," Mama said quietly. "Please, could you speak more softly? My children are asleep."
"Then you will be so kind as to tell me where the Rosens are."
He made no effort to lower his voice. "I assume they are at home, sleeping. It is 4 in the morning, after all," Mama said. Anne-Marie heard the soldiers stalk across the living room toward the kitchen. From her hiding place in the narrow sliver of an open doorway, she could see the heavy uniformed man, a holstered pistol at his waist, in the entrance to the kitchen, peering towards the sink. Another German voice said,
"The Rosens' apartment is empty. We're wondering if they might be visiting their good friends, the Johansons."
"Well," said Papa, moving slightly so that he was standing in front of Anne-Marie's bedroom door, and she could see nothing except the dark blur of his back.
"As you see, you are mistaken. There is no one here but my family."
"You will not object if we look around." The voice was harsh, and it was not a question.
"It seems we have no choice," Papa replied.
"Please don't wake my children," Mama requested again. "There is no need to frighten little ones." The heavy, booted feet moved across the floor again into the other bedroom. A closet door opened and closed with a bang. Anne-Marie eased her bedroom door closed silently. She stumbled through the darkness to the bed. "Ellen," she whispered urgently, "take your necklace off." Ellen's hands flew to her neck. Desperately, she began trying to unhook the tiny clasp. Outside the bedroom door, the harsh voices and heavy footsteps continued. "I can't get it open," Ellen said frantically. "I never take it off. I can't even remember how to open it." Anne-Marie heard a voice just outside the door.
"What is here?"
"Shh," her mother replied. "My daughter's bedroom. They are sound asleep." "Hold still," Anne-Marie commanded. "This will hurt." She grabbed the gold chain, yanked with all her strength, and broke it. As the door opened and light flooded into the bedroom, she crumpled it into her hand and closed her fingers tightly. Terrified, both girls looked up at the 3 Nazi officers who entered the room. One of the men aimed a flashlight around the bedroom. He went to the closet and looked inside. Then, with a sweep of his gloved hand, he pushed to the floor several coats and a bathrobe that hung from pegs on the wall. There was nothing else in the room except a chest of drawers, the blue decorated trunk in the corner, and a heap of Kirsty's dolls piled in a small rocking chair. The flashlight beam touched each thing in turn. Angrily, the officers turned towards the bed.
"Get up,"
he ordered.
"Come out here."
Trembling, the 2 girls rose from the bed and followed him, brushing past the 2 remaining officers in the doorway to the living room. Anne-Marie looked around. These 3 uniformed men were different from the ones on the street corners. The street soldiers were often young, sometimes ill at ease, and Anne-Marie remembered how the giraffe had said for a moment, let his harsh pose slip, and reminded, and had smiled at Kirsty. But these men were older, and their faces were set with anger. Her parents were standing beside each other, their faces tense, but Kirsty was nowhere in sight. Thank goodness that Kirsty slept through almost everything. If they had wakened her, she would be wailing, or worse, she would be angry and her fists would fly.
Your names?
The officer barked. Anne-Marie Johansson, and this is
my sister. Quiet. Let her speak for herself. Your name?
He was glaring at Ellen. I want to pause right there, just for a moment. Look at the soldiers' dialogue. The tone is so much different than when we were with Ellen and Anne-Marie in their bedroom connecting as best friends. Now we hear harsh commands given, questions given that aren't really questions. All these directions, and their voices are just as loud as the stomping of their booted feet around this apartment at 4 in the morning. Listen to how Lois Lowry uses that harsh dialogue, those brusque commands to give us a sense of fear and urgency as we see this conflict come to light. Let's see how Ellen answers the question. Your name? Ellen swallowed. Lisa, she said, and cleared her throat. Lisa Johansson. The officer stared at them grimly. Now, Mama said in a strong voice, you have seen that we are not hiding anything. May my children go back to bed. The officer ignored her. Suddenly, he grabbed a handful of Ellen's hair. Ellen winced. He laughed scornfully. You have a blonde child sleeping in the other room, and you have this blonde daughter. He gestured towards Anne-Marie with his head. Where did you get the dark-haired one? He twisted the lock of Ellen's hair. From a different father? From the milkman? Papa stepped forward. Don't speak to my wife in such a way. Let go of my daughter, or I will report you for such treatment. Or maybe you got her someplace else, the officer continued with a sneer. From the Rosens? For a moment, no one spoke. Then Anne-Marie, watching in panic, saw her father move swiftly to the small bookcase and take out a book. She saw that he was holding the family photograph album. Very quickly, he searched through the pages, found what he was looking for, and tore out 3 pictures from 3 separate pages. He handed them to the German officer who released Ellen's hair. You will see each of my daughters, each with her name written on the photograph, Papa said. Anne-Marie knew instantly which photographs he had chosen. The album had many snapshots, all the poorly focused pictures of school events and birthday parties. But it also contained a portrait taken by a photographer of each girl as a tiny infant. Mama had written in her delicate handwriting the name of each baby daughter across the bottom of those photographs. She realized, too, with an icy feeling, why Papa had torn them from the book. At the bottom of the page, below the photograph itself, was written the date. And the real Lisa Johansson had been born 21 years earlier. Kirsten Elizabeth, the officer read, looking at Kirsty's baby picture. He let the photograph fall to the floor. Anne-Marie, he read next, glanced at her and dropped the second photograph. Lisa Marguerite. He read finally and stared at Ellen for a long time. Unwavering moment. In her mind, Anne-Marie pictured the photograph that he held, the baby wide-eyed and propped against a pillow, her tiny hand holding a silver teething ring, her bare feet visible below the hem of an embroidered dress, the wispy curls, dark. The officer tore the photograph in half and dropped the pieces on the floor. Then he turned the heels of his shiny boots, grinding into the pictures, and left the apartment. Without a word, the other 2 officers followed. Papa stepped forward and closed the door behind him. Anne-Marie relaxed the clenched fingers of her right hand, which still clutched Ellen's necklace. She looked down and saw that she had imprinted the Star of David into her palm. That's the end of chapter 5. I want you to notice how the dialogue from our parents changed throughout this chapter. When it began, when the soldiers first entered, They were calmly asking questions, but by the end they were begging, demanding, raising their voice because the urgency, the conflict of the moment got there. I want you to remember this Star of David, this symbol of Ellen's religion that she wore around her neck that was ripped off and imprinted into the hand of Anne Marie today. I want you to sit and think a little bit about how these best friends have grown and become almost sisters through this conflict. Thanks for checking out Chapter 5, and wait for the next video on Chapter 6. This was Lois Lowry's Number the Stars.